Hi, I'm Karen. We're here at Montevilla Sewing Center, and today we're going to talk about the maintenance on the Janome Skyline S5. To start with, we want to unthread our machine. So take your thread, snip it here at the top, and pull the excess thread out at the needle. Remember, you don't want to grab your thread and pull it backwards out of your machine because that can cause lint to build up in the tension disc. Next thing we want to do is push the lockout button right there because we're going to be working with the needle and in this area. And this prevents accidents like if your kitty cat comes and sits on your foot control, you're not going to accidentally sew through anything that you don't want to sew through. So we're going to take off the presser foot like that. Take off the needle like this. And I'm going to put my needle in a pin cushion over here. Now, on your machine, on this machine, you do not need to do any oiling. The main maintenance that you need to do is make sure you have a sharp needle and take out any lint that's in the machine. So I'm going to take out the bobbin thread here. Now, this is a fairly full bobbin of thread. Every 3 full bobbins that you use up, that's a lot of sewing that you have done on that one needle. So by the time you've done all that sewing, that needle is getting a little bit dull at the tip. So at that point, if you've used 3 full bobbins on the same needle, it's time to put in a new needle. Another way to check that is poke your needle through some fabric, and if it hangs up a little bit every few pokes, then you know it's probably getting dull at that point. So we're going to put this guy down inside here. Then I'm going to put this thing back on because we need to take the needle plate off. Notice there's no screws to take it off. So it's really easy to do that. Take off the accessory tray, push down on this lever, and up it comes. And take that right off of there. And you can see now with the needle and the presser foot out of the way, it's easy to take that off of there and everything's all nice and accessible. So we're going to lift out the bobbin case. You want to clean that on all sides, getting the lint out really good. And then if you've been sewing something fuzzy, you may have a little bit of lint in between the feed dogs. You want to make sure and clean that out really good. Clean inside here under where the bobbin case goes. This little felty looking thing there is felt. When they manufacture this machine, that's where they put some oil and it helps it all go in the right place. You do not need to oil your machine, and don't pull that thing out, just leave it there. This is the cutting mechanism here, just visually inspected just to make sure there's no threads in it. If there are, you can take some tweezers and pull it out. This machine does not have a lot of lint in it. This is a fairly new machine, but after you've been sewing or doing some quilt piecing or something, you'll need to clean this out every now and then. Another good way to think of it is you probably should clean it a little more often than you change your needle, but if you change your needle, clean underneath here. That'll help you remember that. You can also use your vacuum cleaner and hose attachment, and that will help pick up any lint that you're brushing out. Do not use canned air, and that's for 2 reasons. One is if you use canned air and you spray in there, you're actually pushing that lint further back in the machine. You're not actually pulling it out. But the second and the worst reason is canned air, if you spray it long enough, is going to start putting frost on whatever it's spraying. It's because something about the propellant, the way it works. Frost is moisture, and you don't want moisture in your machine at all. Which brings up another point. Where you store your machine is important. Don't store it in a cold, damp basement because there's moisture there, and the coldness will cause the lubricant inside the machine to kind of clog up, and the machine will have trouble working well. Also, no hot attics either. You don't want to put it in really hot temperatures because that could make the lubricant just kind of drain out of where it needs to be. So put your machine where you would be comfortable. That's what I try to tell people. So once you're done, we need to put the bobbin case back in. Notice this little rim here fits right on that groove all the way around there. It needs to be nice and flat. There's a red mark here that's going to be matched up with that red mark there. And this little knob goes right next to that stopper right there. So we scoop this underneath here and just let it sit down like that. I usually like to rock it just to make sure it's nice and evenly on the rim. Okay, once that's on there, then it's time to put the needle plate back on. Get those two little ears right there. Oh, by the way, the needle plate, I should show you this. These are the two clips that connect to these two cleats right here. So the little target area where you press down is right pretty much equidistant between those two. Also, you can get, you probably have in your accessories, other needle plates like a straight stitch needle plate. Your machine is going to read which needle plate you have on. So if you have a straight stitch needle plate, you can't do zigzag. You wouldn't want to because it would break your needle and damage the plate. But your machine will know which one you have based on this little guy back here, the configuration on that, and that presses on these little buttons that are back there. So in case you were wondering, that's how you know. So let's put this guy back on there. There you go. And then we're going to put the foot back on like that. Now I'm going to leave this down for now while I put the needle back in. So your machine comes with this brush. This is the accessory brush that comes with your machine. You can also get a brush like this. Now this has a needle inserter in the end, and I like these. Rather than just holding that needle with my fingers, this is a little bit more secure. It's like having a handle on your needle. Always make sure the flat side of your needle is facing the back of your machine. Put this in there, pointy end first. Give it a little push just to make sure it stays in there. Then poke this right down in there where it sews, and we're going to bring it straight up inside like that. There's this little window here that you might be able to see the top end of the needle, but the main thing is you can feel when it comes up to the stopper. So you want to make sure it's all the way up to the stopper. Then we tighten this up by hand. Keep the upward pressure while you grab your screwdriver. Tighten it a little bit more with your screwdriver. Pull this down like this, and now we have cleaned our machine. Another thing I want to show you is this here. You can open this side door, and if you've been sewing something like batting or flannel, there may be some lint up here. So once you open the door, you can kind of clean that out too. But for the most part, you're not going to get a lot of lint here. I don't know, maybe with some specialty threads you might, but I've never had a problem with that. What this is good for is if your thread breaks and the little end of the thread is up here, you can easily open the door and access that. So that is how you take care of your machine. I hope this was helpful to you. If it was, give us a thumbs up. And if you have questions or comments, you can leave them in that area down below. We have other videos on this machine, so stay tuned and thanks for watching. Bye.